Hello and welcome to the Plant Powered Success. Go vegan, stay vegan. After my first in-person talk, two lives were changed that day. First and foremost was a wonderful woman who was in the audience. She ended up losing over 50 pounds, which is absolutely incredible. And that had a huge knock on effect to her life, her relationships, her career, and quite a lot changed for her, which is really cool. And secondly, my wonderful, wonderful partner watched a gentleman called Doug. He is the Confessions of a Slaughterhouse Worker. He did a talk after mine, and we stuck around for it. And his talk changed my partner's life because after that, my partner decided to go vegan. So, before I dive in today, I really want to share that with you because you never know. You never know what one video training, what documentary, what talk could change your life. So, regardless if you're vegan, plant based, maybe curious, or transitioning, this is going to be the perfect talk for you because if you want to keep this lifestyle, you want to make it work because you've chosen, right? You've chosen to do it, but I don't want to be one of those ones that says, oh, I tried it, but it didn't work for me. Then I'm going to share with you the biggest mistakes most people will make in their transition and share with you the top 3 ways that you can make this lifestyle actually work for you. So, my name is Bianca Jayne, the plant-based queen. Back in 2015, I had a snowboarding accident that basically it nearly killed me, but it was also the catalyst to why I am here speaking to you right now. So, I had a snowboarding accident. I scorpion rolled down the mountain. I lacerated my spleen and I got helicoptered off to hospital. It was the most horrific thing I've ever experienced. I was not with any of my family members. I was on the other side of the planet alone. In the hospital, the doctors gave me 2 choices. They said either risk internal bleeding or have surgery with a 50-50 chance of survival. Now, I chose surgery, obviously, and I'm still here, thankfully. But what followed after that surgery was pretty much 3 months of doing nothing. I was doing nothing. And while I was rehabbing, I was trying to figure out what my life was actually going to look like. And I went down a rabbit hole on Netflix and I started actually watching New Girl on Netflix. I binge watched all of the episodes, all of them. And then I found What the Health and I started kind of going down the rabbit hole with our good friends Dr. Greger and Dr. Clapper and all of those amazing people who have paved the way for plant-based nutrition. And I went out and I got certified as a health coach because I became obsessed with nutrition. I was like, what? Food has the power to change our bodies? What is this crazy witchery? And so I wanted to learn more about food. I wanted to learn more about what all of this stuff was about that I had no idea, right? So I went pescatarian after that first documentary and I cut out meat. I was like, okay, I can see the benefits of cutting out meat. I cut it out, but I kept in dairy and fish. After 5 years of being a pescatarian, the evidence was really stacking up for going plant-based. And with some encouragement by my friends and more research, I read How Not to Die by Michael Greger and The Plant-Based Athlete by Robert Cheek and Matt Fraser. And I decided to go full in. I decided to go plant-based. And my God, did everything change for me. I used to nap 3 hours a day straight, right? There's a collage on screen of me napping. There's 4 photos of me napping around my flat share that my friend took of me. I had no energy. I would literally fall asleep in every single room. I felt like crap. I was napping for 3 hours a day, every single day. That was my norm for years. I was chasing my tail every day with my health. I felt like I couldn't drink enough coffee to stay awake. I was bloated, I was inflamed, I was puffy. I was generally not the fit and healthy 20-something that you would think of me if you saw me at that time. So when I went plant-based, everything completely kind of changed for me. And I found that energy that I've been chasing for years. And I found that the bloating reduced and the sluggishness went away. The constantly getting sick it all went. And I was waking up feeling like an actual freaking human being again. Now, it was a long process to get like this, but it was also a very short transitional period because, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, but it was a very quick space of time, that transition, because I was fully immersed in the lifestyle. And this change was everything to me, right? It made me realize how many people want exactly that transition, but they're not seeing it. They're not getting that transition. And I don't want you to have a near-death experience, to be knocking on death's door before you start experiencing what a vegan or plant-based lifestyle can actually feel like. Because it has occurred to me that there are a lot of vegans and plant-based people out there that do not get this. They do not feel like there's an abundance of energy. They do not feel on top of the world. They do not feel amazing and incredible and light and no digestive issues. They don't feel like this. And that's unfair because you've chosen the healthiest diet on the planet and the best ethics that you could possibly get, and you have chosen an incredibly compassionate route, but you're not receiving the benefits. What the hell, right? What the helly? So there are a few reasons why we might go vegan, and I call it a threefer, right? And I'm going to use vegan and plant-based interchangeably because I'm talking about vegan for along the health purposes, okay? Now, I know that veganism is more than that, but that's the angle that I'm talking about today. And if you don't like it, you can go somewhere else. But veganism is like a threefer, right? One, you're saving billions of non-animal, human animal lives every single day. And two, you're saving the planet. And three, you are saving you. Because if you were like me, wasting time away, napping with no energy, dragging my ass through life, that is not truly living. And that is also not the health that you were sold to when you saw people saying, oh, I feel amazing when I'm vegan, right? That is not, if you are not experiencing that, you're not experiencing this lifestyle the right way. And let's take a step back from that. If you already have friends or family with heart disease, diabetes, or other life-threatening complications, maybe some of you, that reality is already a bit too close, right? If you're experiencing this, you might be vegan for health purposes, right? But again, if you're not experiencing the outcomes that you're supposed to be experiencing, you're probably questioning your life. So, some of you watching this just want some more information, more tips, but some of you, you don't want to wait until you're knocking on death's door, right? You can't wait. Maybe you want to fast forward your results and change your life for good now. So if you do want that permanent change, I'm going to suggest that you join my waitlist for the next plant-powered reset. This is a 5-day challenge to help you stop dieting and start thriving with plants. So some of you don't have that time to wait. Some of you don't have time to keep throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping it sticks. And it doesn't need to be like that. So if you are someone who's ready to make a change, make sure you get your name on the wait list, and I will email you out when the next one is available, when I have the dates for the next one. If you don't feel like you are living life to its fullest, if you don't feel like you're bouncing around feeling amazing, then unfortunately you're not alone, right? And I want to introduce you to my amazing client, dedicated, passionate animal advocate, Helen. So Helen came to me after a long, as a long-term vegan. She was pouring her heart and soul into the case, but she was feeling completely drained. She told me that she was at an all-time low. Menopause had totally changed her life, her weight, her health. Her health was spiraling. She was doing well for kind of like the morning time, but then she would grab some convenience foods and then emotionally and binge eat in the evening. She was seeing some heavy stuff, right? Doing this work is not easy. So she was relying on vegan convenience foods, and she was feeling depressed and exhausted. She had high cholesterol and she was heavily medicated for her asthma. If you want to go and watch her transformation, I actually have interviewed her and she's on my YouTube channel. So all of this is kind of just a summary of her experience. And this really broke my heart when we met, because like Helen, you can have your heart in the right place, but if your body isn't aligned, you will struggle to make it last. And I'm so happy to share that that is just not her reality today, right? 12 months later, she's lost over 20 kilos. Her asthma has improved so much that she's had to pull back on her medication. Evening in binge and emotional eating has stopped, and she's gone from feeling totally out of control to feeling herself for the first time in decades. And the reason why I share Helen's story and my story is because Helen is not the only one. And a 2021 survey of vegans found that 56% reported better digestion, 55% better energy, 53% better sleep, or the other way around, 55% better sleep, 53% better energy since going vegan. But a plant-based lifestyle, a plant-based diet has been shown over and over and over again to be the healthiest diet on the planet. So my question is why are those numbers actually so low? Like 53%, that is dog crap. In my opinion, 53% of vegans are not thriving. What the hell? That is not acceptable by my book. So this is what I really want to talk to you today about, is if you're choosing the most conscious, ethical lifestyle on this planet and you're choosing to take care of animals, you should also be taking care of yourself. So I'm going to start with explaining just 3 different things. 1, veganism is a lifestyle and an ethical position. We talk about absolutely no clothes, no visiting zoos or aquariums. Veganism is a political standpoint. It excludes anything animal products, anything that exploits animals, uses animals, abuses. It's all obviously people who are plant-based or whole food plant-based. I'm not saying that they don't go against that, but veganism is more of a political standpoint. And just for the purpose of this presentation and this workshop, guys, I'm going to talk about plant-based and whole food plant-based. So plant-based, we're just talking about the dietary aspect specifically. It's anything made from plants. So basically we're just anything but excluding animal products. And then whole food plant-based is the next step up. So it's not junk food, it's not processed foods. We're talking about whole plants in their whole form. Think about grains and beans and nuts and seeds and fruits and vegetables, right? All of those foods. There are so many foods that are whole foods. It's just not a processed, refined junk food. And this is actually the problem, right? This is where people fall short. This is where they fall in the gap, is because they go vegan or they go plant-based. However, vegan junk food and vegan plant-based exists. I don't know whether I should say fortunately or unfortunately, but either way, vegan junk food does exist. And the thing is tofu, quinoa, mango, beetroot, these are all vegan and plant-based foods, but also the Mook plant, the plant-based Dairy Lee, Ben & Jerry's and croissants, all of these can also be vegan too. Vegan junk food exists, but because vegan doesn't automatically mean healthy. Not that it necessarily should, but it used to, right? Vegan used to mean healthy. So a lot of people will go vegan and hope that because they're vegan, that this means that they will naturally acquire health. They will be granted amazing, fantastic health. They'll be granted the reversal of illness and disease. But that is not the case. This is where we want to look and focus on going plant-based or whole food plant-based. This is the differentiation between healthy and ethical and unhealthy and ethical. Now, I'm not saying that just having a tub of Ben & Jerry's, just having a vegan donut, just having a vegan pizza means that you are unhealthy. In fact, in my opinion, that's a balanced lifestyle. I have vegan junk food every now and then, and I'm not here pretending that I don't, because I also love donuts, I also love cookies, I also love pizza, all vegan, of course. But it is very important for us to make the differentiation if you are wanting to keep this lifestyle, because if you have a heavy reliance on junk food, that is going to lead you down the line like our friend Helen, okay? Like our other friends who might do this lifestyle for ethical reasons and choices, but don't reap the rewards and reap the benefits. And when you go down the whole food plant-based route, that is when you start feeling the energy, the energy increase, the inflammation going away, the cravings going away. All of those things that I was experiencing went that way because I went whole food plant-based, not necessarily just under the branch of vegan. Okay, I hope this is making sense. So the largest study ever conducted on why people leave vegan and vegetarian asked vegan and vegetarians one question: why did you quit? And the answer was very applicable to what I'm going to say. funny that. But 32% said that they were unsatisfied with their food. 26% said that their health suffered. 13% mentioned about social issues. 13% said it was too inconvenient. Now, while this is probably a very outdated study by now, it's very important to notice that no one said, I stopped caring about the animals, I changed my mind, right? They quit because they didn't have the knowledge and the support that they needed to continue down this path. And this really does boil down. I hear a lot of the time, I tried vegan. Oh, I tried vegan once. I went vegan for a short while. And I'll be honest with you, I speak to about 100 people a day, right? It's just part of my business. It's what I do. Speak to about 100 people a day. And I hear at least every week 5 times, I tried it, it didn't work for me, right? So if you're making this choice, or you want to make this choice and you actually want to make it last, here are the 3 mistakes that you need to avoid to be part of those people who say, hey, I was unsatisfied, my health suffered, I had social problems, and it was just too inconvenient. And I'm also going to share with you 3 smart ways to transition. Oh, there's your stats on the screen. Whoopsie. So let's talk about the 3 most common ways people sabotage their own transition, or sabotage their staying put with their choices. And I call them the dumb ways because they're the dumb ways that I did it. So these are all the dumb ways that I did it. Learn from my mistakes so you don't have to too. The first one is that we remove nutrients, and this comes in 2 forms. So you either remove the animal-based product completely and don't replace it, or you remove it and replace it and have a heavy reliance on on processed plant-based products, which is a big tongue twister for me. So let's talk about the first one, right? You take it away and you don't replace it with anything, right? You're left with a boring ass salad or just some plain pasta. 2 things are happening here. You are slashing your daily calorie intake dramatically, right? Which is your energy, your calories. You're reducing the calories that you're eating on a day-to-day basis, essentially throwing you into a heavy diet. Now, you might think, hey, that's amazing, I'm going to diet. But because you're removing a significant part of your calories, your nutrients, you're going to be in a severe deficit of both energy and nutrition. And this does not hold up. This does not last, right? Very, very soon, you'll be craving junk food in the evening. It won't be long until you realize that bourbons and jammy dodgers and party rings are all accidentally vegan while you're munching them and shoving them back in the evenings because you have completely reduced the amount of calories and nutrients throughout the day without replacing them. Okay, so this shock to the system, people don't actually realize they're doing it, which is why I'm highlighting this to you, right? This is one of the most common things that people do, is they completely remove a significant amount of calories or nutrients. So you're either taking it away and not putting anything else with there. So, a little tiny limp salad. How boring is that? I want you to have you ever gone to a restaurant? And I had this once, right? Where I went to a restaurant and I looked around at the menu and I saw a meat option and I saw the vegan option and I was like, that's interesting. Okay, maybe I'll just have the vegan option. So I ordered the vegan option and it came out and it was exactly the same as a meat dish, but just without the meat. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You want me to pay the same amount of money for the condiments of the meat dish, for the little bits on the side? That's it? Like no replacement? And this is the problem, right? Is people are doing this themselves at home. And what they're doing is they're starving themselves of the macro and micronutrients that you can get from the animal-based product. Now, I'm not saying that there's nothing that you can't get anything. I need to word this right because this is a tongue twister as well. There's nothing that you can't get from plants that you can get from animal products. I think I said that right. This is a brain twister for me. Basically, you can get everything that you can get on plants that you can also get via animals, but it comes without things like antibiotic resistance. It comes without cholesterol, without the saturated fats, etc., etc. The harm, the death, the murder, all of that lot, right? So when we starve ourselves of macronutrients, that's things like proteins, carbohydrates, and fats, we might be starving ourselves of micronutrients, things like B12, calcium, iodine, omega-3s, for example, right? So you're not just eating less food, animal-based products, you're just eating less in general. Now, the second version of this removal is a heavy reliance on processed plant-based products, which is another tongue twister for me. So this is what I did, right? I started started transitioning, I swapped, this was a very, very short period of time, but I swapped vegan chicken, I swapped chicken for vegan chicken, regular cheese for vegan cheese. I swapped beef for processed, for like Beyond Burgers, for example. And yes, it does feel like progress. And actually, it is healthier for us, right? I'm not going to sit here and lie and tell you that it's not healthy because it is. Now, this is a presentation by Dr. Michael Greger. He is one of my gods. I love him. He wrote How Not to Die and How Not to Diet and How Not to Age. And does he have loads? He has loads of books. Anyway, in one of his presentations, in one of his seminars recently that I attended, he showed us these 3 tables. Now, in the first column of each table, you've got your meat processed product. In the second column is a plant-based processed product. In the third column is your whole plant variation. So you can see here how all of the first columns of those 3 tables are heavy on the red and heavy on the yellow, which is your unhealthy markers. And you can see that the plant-based alternatives absolutely dominate in terms of the health markers over the meat-based products, right? But then again, you have the next step up, which is the whole plant variation. So yes, swapping processed plant products for animal-based processed products is healthier. But what is even healthier than that is having the whole plant as it is, right? And that's the difference between processed plant products and the vegan, just generally being vegan or plant-based, and the difference between being whole food plant-based. Now, I'm not saying you have to be whole food plant-based 100% of the time, but if you look at this, every single time you make a choice for whole plants over plant-based products and a plant-based product over a meat product, you are making a positive lifestyle choice for your health. Okay. So I'm not here to say to you that switching to animal products is not as healthy, because it absolutely, indefinitely, absolutely is. No question about it. But we want to make sure that we're also not starving ourselves of other essential nutrients, macro and micronutrients, and fiber that we could probably get from the other products. So your body does require those vitamins, minerals, fibers, calories to function optimally, right? So I want to make sure that you guys are actually swapping it for what you need. And we will talk about that in just a moment, right? It's not a complicated fix, but I'm going to share with you something that's really, really cool that I kind of been keeping under wraps for only my in-person talks and my clients. So think yourself lucky that you're getting access to this, okay? Dumb way number 2, and we're just going to talk about this briefly, is just going in cold tofu, right? We don't harm turkeys around here. We go cold tofu overnight. So I get why people do this because I kind of did it myself. I woke up on 2021, January the 1st, and I went, I'm going to go vegan. But for me, I had to surround myself with people who were actually already doing it so that I could make the change positively. Now, when I said I'm going to go vegan, for the difference between that and actually going vegan was a little bit of a transition. I actually personally myself had a difficulty transitioning with chocolate and eggs. I used to love eggs. I was like a 3 egg a day person, dippy yolk. I loved it. And it wasn't until I knew that ethically there was something wrong and that I wanted to do it. I wanted to go vegan the right way and not keep having these excuses for why I can continue eating my friend's chickens' eggs, right? The chickens who would lay eggs in the back garden, right? I found the most ethical source of eggs that I thought that were ethical. But anyway, I wanted to cut it out. So it took a period of time to taper out. And I'm not going to lie to you, I don't know where I would be without kalonamac. Kalonamac is black salt. It has a high sulfur content, so it looks and smells like farts. But essentially, that's what an egg smells and looks and smells and tastes like, right? Did I say looks? It doesn't look like it. It looks like a salt. It's just a powder. And it's actually ironically pink. It's not black, even though it's called black salt. So if it wasn't for finding black salt, I don't know how long it would have taken me to taper off eggs, but they were my thing. And it took a while to taper off. So a lot of the time when we have this idea that we have to go overnight and change overnight, we are actually setting ourselves up to fail, because changing your lifelong habits overnight and expecting it to go overnight and having a perfectionism mindset isn't going to bear well. Now, the problem that I see quite a lot of the time is, oh, I messed up, I'll start again Monday. Monday rolls around, and then maybe they'll go vegan again. By Wednesday, they've made a mistake, and then they're off again. But because people make a mistake, they then make that the reason why they're not vegan for an extra few days, right? The same happens with weight loss, guys. I am a weight loss coach. The same happens with weight loss. When women make a mistake and they eat something that, they have a chocolate bar and they're like, oh, I wasn't supposed to have chocolate, vegan or non-vegan. That's irrelevant. When they make that food choice or they eat foods that they didn't plan on having, it goes all out the window, right? We go into this fuck it cycle where we then start eating more because one more doesn't matter. Well, I've already blown it anyway. That mentality is what keeps people stuck. That mentality is keeping you in this loop of starting and stopping and starting and stopping. And because you have this perception that you have to transition overnight, it doesn't actually happen. And you stay stuck in this problem. So the next thing is that we have this, we have a transition phase, right? And if we want to build habits that last, we need to take these little tiny actions to create a habit. So saying that we're going to go overnight is really, and I know I've already said it, but it really is setting you up for success, because you have to create new habits, you have to create new beliefs, and you have to go and share everything with your social circles, with your family, right? But that's not going to click overnight. Your family can't just wake up one day and change everything that they know and believe about you. Yes, they kind of do have to change it, but it's going to be very difficult for them, right? We see the same when people decide that or realize that they're born in the wrong body. Your family might be supportive of you, but it will take a while for them to stop saying him or her. The same sort of goes with the veganism side. Because you've changed your mind, because you've decided to go on a weight loss journey, not everyone is going to remember and be on board immediately. Not necessarily on board in terms of support, because hopefully everyone supports you, but maybe they just need reminding. Maybe they forget. Maybe they make you food and they just totally forgot that you're vegan, or that you're deciding that you are losing weight, so you want a health conscious option, right? Just because you've made a choice doesn't mean that they are going to remember that right away. So these things do take time. Now, that doesn't mean that that person is trying to sabotage you. Of course, sadly, there are some people out there that try and sabotage you. They wave meat in your face and they tell you that one meal doesn't hurt. But that's not the case for us. I know it's not the case. One meal is more than just one meal. It's an entire ethical, resistance, right? We don't want to do that because of what we know to be true. So when we decide to go in full hog overnight cold tofu, we are setting ourselves up for failure, because one, we have to create habits, and habits take a long time. They take at least 90 days to ingrain. Two, we have to tell everyone and expect that they need to remember. And three, we also have to change our identity and who we believe that we are as a person. And that takes time too. A perfect example of this is after my first talk, me and my partner hung around for Doug, who had his talk of the Confessions of a Slaughterhouse Worker. I mentioned it earlier. And it took my partner that conversation to walk away and decide to go vegan. But it was not easy for him. He had to go through all of the same awkward conversations with family and friends and colleagues and his boss. And he had a job that required a lot of travel and a lot of visiting hotels. And while that might sound flashy, it actually isn't that flashy, because you realize that other countries and hotels struggle to actually understand what veganism is. No matter how much you tell them in advance, they still don't get it. So it took a lot of experimenting, it took a lot of talking, it took a lot of showing him again the reasons why he made this decision. Even though he was consciously aligned, subconsciously there was a not resentment, but there was this friction going on subconsciously, right? He knew that he wanted to change, but there was that difficulty. And this is what I mean. Going overnight is very difficult on us, and it takes our toll, especially if we don't have the support and the know-how, the knowledge around us, right? It also took a lot of me packing kilos and kilos of tofu and tempeh in his suitcase away with him as he went on holiday to finally figure out how to do it effectively. And this is just the joys of human psychology. If you can't go against it, you got to go with it. So, dumb way to do this, number 3, is doing it alone. So, a large case study of former vegans and vegetarians found that 84% of people who lapsed were not actively involved in any vegan group or community. Not a potluck, not an online forum, just nothing, right? And over half had quit within a year, with a third giving up in just 3 months. Think about that. Your values aren't changing. It's not disappearing. You just don't have the people, the support, the network around you. People who are having to navigate the same conversations, the same social situations, the same problems and difficulties, navigate menus and moments of doubt. So they ran off the road. Because doing something hard alone doesn't just make it harder, it makes it feel impossible. And when it feels impossible, we start telling ourselves this story. Oh, maybe it wasn't meant for us. Maybe my body is different. Maybe because I'm older, it just doesn't work for me. Oh, I'm too old. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. All of this BS comes from the evidence that we see it not working, so we create a story that backs that up. That's the way brains work. They have to have a story behind something, right? So if you don't have the support, the network, and you're doing it alone, you are 84% more likely to quit. So we want to make sure that you are not alone. We want to make sure that you have that support, right? And so this is something that is severely underestimated. So if you go vegan in a household that isn't vegan, it's going to be difficult, right? You're going to have to face your family constantly asking you, where are you getting your protein from, right? You might have to navigate restaurants and figure out how to speak and what to ask for by yourself. And you have to make decisions on your own and trying to figure out what's going on in your body alone. And this is very, very difficult, right? I had this experience where when I went vegan when I went pescatarian, about 6 months after I went pesky, I'd obviously quit meat and I was feeling really lightheaded. I was feeling really nauseous and I started craving steak like there was no tomorrow. Now, I'm ashamed to admit this, but I actually worked in a steakhouse at the time. And I was like getting to the point that I was salivating over these steaks, which actually makes me want to retch right now at the idea. But I was like so desperate to eat these steaks. And I remember someone telling me, hey, have you thought about your iron levels? Maybe you're deficient in iron. All it took was a couple of little tweaks to my diet, that conversation and a couple of little tweaks to my diet to not break my choice, right? And so I didn't eat meat in the end. Because I didn't need it, because I made those choices, because I had that conversation. And if I wasn't surrounded by people who were actually supportive of me and of my choices, I would have eaten steak. Whether it was that day or that week, I would have eaten meat. And I didn't want to, but I thought that I was different. I thought that, it was something wrong with me. It wasn't. It was just a lack of education in how to balance a plate, which I'm going to teach you today. But had I not had that experience, I would have created a story around it saying, this is not for me. Okay. So we want to make sure that when we are changing our lifestyle, we are fully surrounded by people who support us. And I talk about this all the freaking time because community and people around you are the most effective driver for you to take action. It is hands down, the single most powerful factor on whether you sustain this new lifestyle, whether you go towards your goals, whether you reach them or not. Not information, it's not willpower, it's community. So when you're surrounded by people who are on the same path, who are figuring out the same things, they're celebrating the same wins, they're working through the same struggles, everything is easier. The challenges don't feel so challenging because you are not isolated and you don't have to do it alone, right? That's why I have a free Facebook community. That's why I host free group challenges. That's why with my clients, I through grit and gritted teeth, I get everyone into the same room at the same time, right? Because when we are together, we are rewired. There is a phrase, and I can't remember what it's called, but together we are rewired, right? So that's why I host these groups, and all of these things that I do, I try to do them in group format, because when you are around other people, you are more motivated to take action, to stay in alignment with everyone else's principles and goals and morals and values. So we have herd mentality. That means that we will always act to be the same as. That's why these groups, your community, is so very important. Right? So I want you to ask yourself and look around. Who around you is supportive? Who around you is destructive? Right? Okay, so they are the dumb ways to do this. This is what I did. These are the mistakes that I made. And I'm going to tell you about the smartest, most most efficient, that's the word I was looking for. I'm going to teach you the most efficient way to get it done, ingrained, nailed, and absolutely crushing your life to a point that you feel like you've got so much fucking energy that you don't know what to do with it, okay? So, let's go. The first way, of course, if we have been doing it the dumb way by removing the nutrients, we want to do it the smart way, which is replacing the nutrients, right? If we want to make this lifestyle work in a way that feels nourishing and incredible, and in a way that you're bouncing around life and people are saying, oh my God, what are you on? What weight loss injection are you on? What peptides are you taking? You'll be like, nothing. I'm just vegan, right? You want to be that vegan. You don't want to be the vegan that's running around. There's the stereotype, like the vegan, unhealthy vegan, right? You want to be the one that shows everyone that this is the lifestyle for you. This is the one that makes you feel amazing, that it's ethical and is the best thing on the planet, right? If that's what you want to feel like, we want to make sure that the way that you are approaching nutrition, right? The way that you are approaching nutrition is optimal. Now, you don't need to turn into a nutritionist or a health coach or a dietitian to learn what I'm going to teach you today, because I'm going to teach you a very, very easy, quick thing today that will help you implement this, okay? And just before we do, like, the research is freaking clear, yeah? Replacing meat, dairy with whole grains, beans, nuts, and seeds can significantly reduce cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and obesity. It can reverse and prevent illness and disease, lifestyle illness and disease, right? So not swapping animal-based products for vegan sausage rolls, swapping animal-based products, any animal-based product, for whole food, okay? Whole foods in their rawest form, the rawest that you can actually eat them. Some things you need to cook. If it can make you feel that freaking amazing, right? If it can reverse illness and disease, what do you think it can do for someone who doesn't have any illness and disease? How amazing do you feel like it could, how amazing could you feel if you reversed illness and disease and then some? Right? How amazing. This is like the life-giving pill. This is like the drug that everyone's looking for. That drug of vitality, of vibrancy. That's a whole food plant-based diet, right? You just can't bottle it up and put it in a pill, although people are trying, right? That is literally the key, the magic cure to a vibrant and healthy lifestyle. And I'm going to teach you how to do this in a really, really simple way. So the way that we want to make sure that we're doing this right is by having balance. So your macro and micronutrients are balanced, so you're not needing to snack between meals. We want to have balance so that you're getting the right nutrients in the right amounts. You want variety to make sure that you're hitting all of your amino acids, your phytochemicals, right? We want to make sure that we're hitting the vaster range of nutrients and micronutrients that you possibly can. And then of course we want it to be enjoyable. We want it to be tasty. So we want to make sure that we're enjoying our food, we're feeling satisfied, we're feeling satiated, and we feel good after eating it, not just craving more food right afterwards because it just didn't hit the spot. So this is how we're going to tick all of those. And I'm going to do this very, very quickly and briefly with you. You can rewind this, go back, start again, or you can pause this video, you can slow it down, but I'm going to do this very, very plain and simply. So the way that I teach my clients to do this is I want you to choose whether you're going to start your meal with a liquid format, a contained format, or a bowl or a plate. So a liquid could be a soup, whether it's chunky or smooth, or a smoothie. A contained could be a burrito, a wrap, a sandwich, a pita or burger. A bowl or a plate could be a Buddha bowl, a warm salad, a cold salad, a curry, or a pasta dish, a roast dinner, for example, or a component meal. Now, you can choose whatever freaking formats that you want. I don't care. This is just an idea, okay? If you've got more formats, or you can think of more formats, cool beans, go bananas. But this is the quickest and easiest way for my brain to think about this. So for this example, I'm going to use a bowl or a plate. And now we're going to choose a green fruit or vegetable. Don't overcomplicate it, just choose one. There's a list on the screen. This example, I'm going to use spinach. Now I want you to choose a colourful fruit or vegetable. Don't overcomplicate it. For this example, I'm using tomatoes. Now we're going to find a high protein source. For my example, I'm using tempeh. Now we're going to choose a source of starch. For this example, I'm going to use pasta. Then we're going to choose a source of a healthy fat. Notice I say healthy fat on there. And then that, for my example, was olives. So I made, and this is a real dish that I've made, a pesto pasta dish with olives, tomatoes, and spinach, right? That's it. I've got all of the greens. I've got my color. I've got my starch. I've got my protein with the tempeh in there. I forgot to mention. the last thing that we want to do is just add a little bit of flavor, a little bit of je ne sais quoi, some va-va-voom, right? So that's why I say find some sauces, find some condiments, find some herbs and spices that just give it that flavor. The pasta example on the screen, I used a pesto, right? That's a condiment that we can use, and it also has some fats in there as well. So I'm going to just scroll all the way through because you are watching this on replay. We don't need to do this one by one, but there are 4 more recipes on the screen for you there with a full breakdown of each of those components. So the meal format, then you've got the green color, then you've got the colorful fruit or vegetable, then you've got the protein, the starch, the fat, and something to tie it together, right? Hit pause, screenshot, I don't care. These are 4 recipes that you can turn into a full meal. So it can be a curry, a smoothie, a burrito, and a salad bowl. This is how we create beautiful, delicious meals that are very well balanced, that make sure that you hit your macro and your micronutrients, so you're not just taking the main portions away and starving yourself, okay? Starving yourself of calories and nutrients. So I hope that was really helpful. The next smart way is to systematize. Again, I'm still not too sure this is a real word, but we're going to create systems and strategy. So the second smart way is to make sure that you have systems and strategies in place, because we know that motivation doesn't freaking last, right? Motivation is an emotion. It is fleeting. Don't base a transition, whether that's to veganism, to plant-based, into a healthy person, into someone who's on a weight loss journey. Do not ever use motivation as your carry through, as your vehicle, because it will not last. It will break down after a week. Guarantee you. Motivation is not enough, and it will never be enough. And willpower was never supposed to carry this much weight, right? So leaving your weight loss journey, your plant-based vegan transition down to motivation is probably the dumbest way. That will be your 4th dumb way. So we want to make sure that we have systems and strategies in place so that when motivation fades, when life gets hard, when shit hits the fan, you can fall back on the things that got you there in the first place. Now, systems and strategies, I'll give you an example of that in a minute, but they are essentially creating habits, and habits need to be built gradually. And habits are essentially just actions that you do by default, right? So when some subsequent actions carry out themselves, become automatic. That is when they are a habit. And habits don't need decisions. You don't need to think on purpose. So when you start creating a new habit, it takes a lot of thinking. That's why when you start a journey or you do something different, it requires a lot of thinking, a lot of effort. That's why things feel difficult at first, because every single time you carry out an action, you're having to do something different. You're having to think on purpose, and your brain hates thinking on purpose. It requires a lot of decision making that burns through a lot of fuel. Our brains are lazy. They are lazy as hell, right? So when you don't have habits in place that are in line with the version of you that you want to become, it feels difficult. So we want to create systems and strategies to make that easy as possible. And think of it like this, right? Imagine you drive to your new workplace, you put the GPS in, but you still take a wrong turn, right? The second time you do it, you put the GPS on, but you don't take the wrong turn. Then the third time you go to work, you don't need the GPS and you don't take the wrong turn. Because the more you do it, the more it becomes automatic. Now, you drive to the grocery store and you accidentally drive to work. Let me know, if you have accidentally driven to the wrong place out of autonomy, right? This is why habits are so important, because you want to start creating those habits over time with systems and strategies that mean that when you are faced with something different, triggering, something old, you know how to react, right? So for example, the moment life gets difficult, it becomes a stressful week. Time is of the essence for you. Maybe a birthday comes up or a weekend away, right? When these things happen, quite often, if you haven't built the systems and the habits and the strategies in the background, and you've just been flying off the seat of your pants, or you've just been using someone else's meal plan that doesn't actually teach you how to create strategies and systems in the background, you are going to default to what you already know to do. And that is your old behaviors, right? So this is regardless of whether we're building, this applies to regardless of whether we're on a weight loss journey, whether we're trying to be vegan or plant-based, it applies that you need to make sure that you have habits and systems in place so that when those things happen, you are not defaulting to your old you are defaulting to your systems. I think it's James Clear says it very, very well. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your systems. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your systems. So if your systems are way down on the floor, like where you started, right? Your old strategies, your old you is still hanging around in the background. That ain't going to hold up when shit hits the fan, girl, right? When life gets busy, that's not going to hold up. So we also don't want that perfectionistic mindset. Just to remind you of dumb way number 2, that perfectionistic mindset doesn't work. So when you have systems and strategies in place, it also helps reduce and eliminate that perfectionism mindset, because perfectionism is going to kill more vegan transitions, more plant-based transitions, more weight loss journeys than your cravings ever will. Because the moment you get stuck in waiting for it to be perfect, the perfect time of my life to start a weight loss journey, the perfect time of life to go vegan, you are staying stuck. And you are choosing to stay stuck by waiting for the perfect time. Because I'm telling you now, there is no fucking perfect time to do anything. So systems mean that you don't need to rely on motivation to make a good choice, because you have already made the choice for you. So this actually reduces a lot of decision fatigue, which is really, really smart. I'm talking about systems like meal planning and shopping, meal preparation, right? Meal planning and shopping, so you're not trying to wing it all week and you're not obsessing and thinking about what the next meal is, what you're going to have to cook, where you're going to have to go to get the food and buy the food, right? Meal planning preparation so that you save time and you save energy, so that food is already waiting for you on the table when you get home after a busy freaking week, right? We want to also create some non-negotiables, some decisions ahead of time. I will do this, but I will not do this. That is one of the most powerful things that I created for myself when I went vegan. I said, I am no longer someone who does this, right? And that was eat meat and eat fish. I didn't say that for eggs. I said it for dairy, but I didn't say it for eggs, right? But the moment I created the non-negotiables of I will not do this, it actually stuck. It was super helpful. So I created a non-negotiable in my mind, right? I shared that non-negotiable. I wrote them down. I said it out loud. I shared it with other people. Other things that are really helpful for you along this journey, whether it's a plant-based vegan or a health journey or a weight loss journey, you want to make sure that you're sufficiently hydrated, right? You want to make sure that you are sleeping well, because both of these are also going to eliminate or mitigate a lot of food cravings, so that you're not going to default to your old behaviors when you feel like you're in a bit of a pinch or in a bit of a struggle. You choose junk foods or animal-based products to just have a pick-me-up or just for a little protein boost, because you don't need them, right? You don't need them. And when you're sufficiently hydrated and you have enough sleep, you are going to help with that. So, I want to share with you a quick story about Bryony. Bryony was one of my clients, and when we first met, she was known for being like the busy one. She was already vegan, but she was really struggling and her health was actually dwindling away for years. She hadn't shifted weight in 5 years. She was napping every single day, pretty much like me. She was napping every day. She was bloated. She was exhausted. And she had even spent 5 months getting her thyroid tested, hoping that it was a problem with that, because if it wasn't, then she would have to face her health and lifestyle choices. But she told me that she felt broken because she stood by veganism and she wanted to stick to it, but it didn't feel like veganism supported her. Right? She didn't want to break the veganism, but she felt like she was running out of options. So we gave her some systems. We put some systems in place. We gave her some strategies and some habits, and we created those over time. We built them up from the ground. And eventually, bloat went away. She lost that 5-year plateau and her weight started shifting in the right direction. She hit her goal. Her cycle came back. She came back in full force like clockwork. She stopped napping every day. Her energy came back. And she says, quote unquote, I feel like a normal human now. Right? Because we changed the systems. We looked intrinsically as what was going on for her. And I also recorded an interview with Bryony. So if you would like to watch that, please let me know and I can send you the link to that. That is also on YouTube. So I want you to recognize that your systems are either working for you or they're working against you. Right? And the women who make it last aren't relying on willpower. They are falling to their systems. So finally, the smart way, number 3 to do this is to surround. So 84% of people who quit veganism had no community around them. So we want to make sure that that changes today, right? They were trying to figure this out alone. Isolation doesn't make your journey harder. It makes it freaking impossible. So as Tony Robbins says, proximity is power. I want you to be close to people who support you, to people who justify your actions, to people who help you and guide you and bring you back to the right choice. People around you don't just influence what you do, they rewire who you become. So when you surround yourself with people who are living the life, making the choices, have their non-negotiables that are the same things that you want to achieve, you will do everything that your subconscious, it's all in the subconscious, will do possible to be the same as. Humans don't want to stick out. They want to be the same as. So are you surrounding yourself with people who are supportive of your future self or supportive of your past self? Because there's going to be a divide, right? People are most likely really supportive of the old you because they don't want to face a new you. They don't want to face their values and their belief systems being shaken up, right? So people will always support the old you. They will support you drinking at the pub. They will support you by buying takeaways and buying chocolates because you're down, right? Whereas people who support you and understand where you're going will help you achieve your goals. And that's exactly why I went on the Holistic Holiday at Sea cruise, right? That's where I met Dr. Gregor, my good friend Robert Cheek. He was one of the co-authors of The Plant-Based Athlete. This was the book that changed my life. This was the book, How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger. That was the book that made me realize, holy crap, like food has the power to heal, right? This book was the book that made me realize, holy crap, and it can be applied to being a healthy, fit vegan. And if it wasn't for this book and its chapter on protein, I think I would have been stuck in the same protein cycle. Am I going to get enough protein? I need to make sure that I have protein powders. Right? If it wasn't for this book, then I don't think, I understood the power of nutrition, but this helped me apply it, I think. So my good friend Robert Cheek, I actually met him on the Holistic Holiday at Sea. He's a fantastic human being. Love you to pieces, buddy. Like, you're such a great guy. Super down to earth and just really wholesome and really lovely. And managed to meet him, which was cool. Dr. Neil Bernard, another amazing person paving the way for plant-based nutrition, plant-based science. The beautiful Plantiful Kiki. Her recipes are absolutely fantastic. They're wholesome, they're easy, they are exactly how I cook, which is really super cool. But the reason why I went on the Holistic Holiday at Sea cruise, which I would highly recommend everyone have a look for, and no, I am not sponsored, paid, or anything by anything that I have mentioned or mention. I'm not an affiliate or anything like that. I tried to sign up as an affiliate, but just didn't bother selling it. But the Holistic Holiday at Sea cruise is a fantastic place to surround yourself and be a big kid amongst loads of other vegans who are also compassionate and trying to do the same as you, because this community is everything. Now, if you don't feel like you can spend a couple of grand, throw a couple of grand on a cruise, this is also why I built a Facebook community, a community, a group, a space of women who are vegan or transitioning or plant-based or just want to eat more plants, to be and get support and ask questions and be a healthiest version of themselves that they possibly can be. So if you're not in my Facebook group and you want to be a healthier version of you, or a healthy version of you, maybe you want to lose some weight, maybe you want to be a full vegan, come and join the Facebook group community. It is freaking free, right? In there, I post about my free 5-day challenges. So every 4 or 5 weeks, I run her plant-powered reset, a 5-day challenge to help women stop dieting, start thriving with plants. I'm actually running one today. We're on day 2 today as I'm recording this video. And this is a really great space where we get people in a group community. My brain's dead. In a community, in a small group, and really help them connect and grow each other. That support is so essential. And this is what my clients say. Like, the best part of the whole program for them is that community. Because if you reach out and you need support and you need someone to help you and guide you and give you some recipes or remind you of why you're on this journey, having that someone there, like the click of your fingers, is so powerful and incredible. So that is pretty much it. If you're watching this, I don't know where I'm going to be posting this. I think it'll be in the Facebook group and YouTube. If you want to comment, or I'll put in the description the link for the group. But if you want to join the challenge, I'll also put the link in there. When we are not hosting, when I don't have the date set, it will automatically direct you to the waitlist. Put your name on the waitlist and you'll be the first to grab a space in my famous free 5-day challenge. So make sure you get your name on the waitlist, get your butt inside the community, because there's a whole bunch of women in there thriving with plants and you're not in there yet. So come on over, guys. I can't wait to see you there. Have a fantastic day, and don't forget that you can also get all of the benefits of a whole food plant-based lifestyle if you do it right. Take care. If you have any questions, fire them over.